The leaven of Herod represents more than just political intrigue. It symbolizes the blending of worldly power, corruption, and spiritual degradation. Herod himself, an Edomite by ancestry, embodied this mixing of wickedness. His reign, marked by fear, oppression, and deceit, reflected the deep-rooted spiritual corruption that had taken hold in leadership. Now let's think about what Jesus was really warning his disciples about in Mark 8:15. This wasn't just a political warning, it was spiritual. The leaven of Herod, the Edomites, and the Pharisees had become signs of Satan's influence, quietly working through their false teachings, worldly ambitions, and lack of true devotion to God. Satan's subtle hand was at work, much like yeast in flour, turning what should have been a holy, pure nation into something corrupted. This leaven, once small, grew over time. What started as small compromises with the world, such as Herod's lust for power, eventually became a larger movement away from the righteousness God had commanded his people to uphold. This is why Jesus warns his disciples to avoid letting the teachings, practices, and even leadership of such corrupted individuals infiltrate their hearts and minds. The deeper message is clear: be vigilant. What seems small, just a bit of leaven, can lead to a larger spiritual downfall. The leaven of Herod, symbolized by the Edomite infiltration, had spread far beyond just political corruption. It became a spiritual signpost, pointing to how deeply Satan had embedded his deception within the leadership of Israel. As we reflect on this today, it's a call to guard against letting small, seemingly harmless influences, whether in doctrine or practice, corrupt our faith. Like leaven in dough, these influences can spread, often unnoticed, until the entire spiritual life is affected. Jesus' warning is just as relevant now as it was then. In this way, Jesus was preparing his disciples for the battle against spiritual corruption, warning them of the pervasive influence of the leaven, whether of the Pharisees, of Herod, or of Satan himself. It's a message about purity, vigilance, and staying true to the ways of God. I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 2:9 KJV. This verse reflects the Messiah's deep awareness of the trials faced by his true followers, recognizing their suffering and spiritual wealth despite outward poverty. He also acknowledges the blasphemy of those who falsely claim to be Jews but are not. This likely refers to a group that has infiltrated the identity of the true Israelites. The reference to them as the synagogue of Satan implies that although they claim to be Judeans, they are not the true descendants of Israel, and instead are aligned with deceit and opposition to God. In this context, this passage suggests that the Messiah is fully aware of those who have falsely assumed the identity of the true Israelites, potentially linked to the Edomites, who historically were descendants of Esau and often opposed the Israelites. The Messiah's words serve as a reassurance that he recognizes the true spiritual lineage of his people and is aware of the falsehoods perpetuated by those who claim to be what they are not. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Revelation 3:9 KJV. In this verse, the Messiah addresses those who falsely claim to be Jews but are actually part of the synagogue of Satan. This term identifies them as impostors, not true descendants of Israel, but rather people aligned with deception and opposition to God's truth. Historically, this can be connected to the Edomites and Canaanites, who were part of the population that John Hyrcanus, a Hasmonean ruler, forced to convert to Judaism. By the time of this forced conversion, the IDUMEA'S, descendants of Esau, had likely mixed with the Canaanites, forming a group with both Edomite and Canaanite ancestry. The rise of the Herodian dynasty, which was of Idumean descent, further solidified this group's influence, allowing them to usurp authority over the true descendants of Jacob Israel living in Judea. These false Judeans, through their political and religious influence, became powerful. But the Messiah's message in Revelation 3:9 promises that their deceit will be exposed, and the true followers of God will be vindicated.